Your baby cannot have honey before 1. This can lead to paralysis and respiratory problems. Dal ka pani and rice cereal is not food.
If you're going to hire a professional to massage your baby, why are you letting them torture your baby by just pulling their legs and pressing so hard, all in the name of strengthening bones?
Babies get eczema, diarrhea, constipation issues if they take a lot of cow's milk before 1.
Make a ball of the atta and then you use that ball to rub it on her skin so that the hair comes out with it. That sounds horrific. I feel like this episode could be called 10 things that Rinie did with her baby that you shouldn't do with yours. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Modern Indian Parent Podcast, the podcast that is redefining parenting in Indian families. I am Rinie Gupta, I'm a pediatric sleep consultant.
And I'm Sanchita Daswani, a pediatric nutritionist. And every week we bring you episodes where we are busting myths and owning our modern parenting choices, even if Nani and Dadi don't agree with them.
And the topic for today is truly something that Nani and Dadi will disapprove of. So you might want to have them in a different room while you're watching this podcast. Is 10 baby care practices that should literally be banned. So these are these traditional newborn care practices that we see in a lot of Indian families. If you're about to have a baby or you've just had a newborn, you definitely want to watch this and make sure that you're avoiding every single one of them to keep your baby safe.
Let's get right into it to the first one. Rinie, this is a good one. Kajal in the eyes. You will see a lot of babies where the parents are putting kajal in the eyes. And the main reason they do this is because they say they want to protect from nazar. And also they believe that putting the kajal in the eyes will actually make their eyes bigger. Now, I think we know the answer to this, but Rinie, does it actually make the eyes bigger?
I mean, of course not. Guys, I've got a degree in biosciences. I studied genetics for 4 years. And your body, everything, every feature is purely determined by your genes. All right? No product can ever change the face structures. That is just if you've got small eyes and your baby will have small eyes. If you've got big eyes, your baby will have big eyes. There is nothing you can do to change it. And if you believe in nazar, that's okay. I think everybody can have different beliefs. But putting kajal in the eye, or I've seen these pictures where there's just kajal everywhere on a baby's face. I mean, that is so unnecessary. Your baby's so beautiful without it. Why put these irritants on their skin and inside their eye?
Why take that risk of putting something in such a sensitive area? And if you believe in nazar, just, put a little dot behind the ear, choose a safe spot to do it. And it's just better to avoid it for your child's health because they're just too young to take that risk.
Absolutely. And, because we also know that there are tear ducts right in the corner of your eye. When you put kajal, you could be depositing residue in those tear ducts. And once those get blocked, they could cause a proper inflammation around the eye. And believe me, that is no fun to treat, especially for a helpless little newborn baby. So let's skip over that practice. No matter how much somebody's pressurizing you to do it, do not put kajal in your baby's eye.
And when it comes to the face, another thing that a lot of parents are told to do when it comes to, during the massage is to also put oil in the ears and in the nose. And I know that the reason they're told this is because they want to loosen the wax or moisturize the nose and the ears. But does that really need to happen?
See, the thing is, firstly, if you're putting oil into your child's nose, that can easily cause an infection. And you see, they're doing this because eventually they want to take an earbud and clean the ear out. And we know now, not just for babies, even adults, we should not be putting earbuds inside our ears. We are only going to push the wax closer to the ear canal and cause problems for us. So why subject your baby to this? When I went to the doctor, they just told me, take a cotton swab or take a gauze and just clean the outside of the ear for your baby. There is no need to clean inside because after all, the wax is a protective thing.
Our body is so wonderful on its own that it is able to take care of itself. So we shouldn't interfere with that. Just imagine us having oil in our nose. That's not something that's going to help us breathe better or feel better at all.
The third practice that I want to tell parents to avoid, and this is coming from a very personal experience, because when my baby turned 6 days old in my family, I was advised to do it is called a chatti ki puja, right? We did this puja, and at the end of the puja, I was told that now you need to take a drop of honey and offer this to your baby. And my baby was 6 days old. And she has had nothing but breast milk at that point. And I had read somewhere that you shouldn't offer honey to babies, but there was so much pressure from my family side, and they say, this is what you need to do. It's going to give her a good luck and a better start in life. And none of that was making sense to me at that point. And I was under so much stress. Thankfully, my husband stood by me and we said, we're not going to do it. And we're just going to offer her a spoon of milk instead of this honey thing. But at that time, I wasn't quite clear why I shouldn't be doing it. But Sanchita, you're a nutritionist. Can you tell us why we shouldn't offer honey to a newborn?
Yeah, so this is definitely a PSA announcement. Your baby cannot have honey before one. The reason is because honey has a certain bacteria. And when that baby ingests that bacteria, it releases a toxin. And this toxin is what babies cannot handle. And this can lead to paralysis and respiratory problems. It's only post 1 year that it's safe to offer, and the body will be able to handle this bacteria in the system. So many people have been told offer honey to help with teething, to help with colic, to help with so many issues. It is not safe. The body cannot handle it.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like, I wish I had this exact piece of information and share it with my family, and then that would have just zipped them up instead of just continuing to pressurize me. So the fourth thing that we really want you to avoid with your baby is Ghutti. So my baby, when she was born, she was very colicky. And I'm talking hours of crying for weeks on end. I was losing my shit, honestly. And amongst all the things that I was asked to try, one of them that multiple people from my family and even a doctor asked me to try what this Ghutti called Mugli Ghutti 555. Okay, the Mugli Ghutti 555. And it's this Ayurvedic blend that is supposed to help babies with indigestion and things like that. And they say it is safe to offer from 3 days of age. So you can even give it to a 3-day-old baby. And I was so desperate at that point that my mom actually managed to ship a bottle over from India to Singapore in the middle of a COVID lockdown. And I tried it, and it actually made no difference whatsoever. But only when I started looking at the ingredients, I realized, what am I giving to my baby?
This is some age old tradition that was done. And if you look at the ingredients, peppermint, elaichi, mystery, which is sugar. We all know you cannot give sugar to kids. It is going to damage their gut. It is not safe. It's not okay to give it to them. I know it's tough because you've been through it. When a baby has colic, you feel lost. You feel like I will try anything. But what did you feel really helped you in that sense if not using this for the colic?
I think with colic, it's firstly understanding that is a thing that just a lot of babies have to go through, and you just have to ride it out. And it takes a lot of resilience on your part to do it. There are some studies that show that probiotic drops can help. I remember I used these BioGaia probiotic drops that I felt had some bit of an impact. Gripe water is another. I think it's supposed to be a fennel extract. And again, it's supposed to settle the stomach and all. But there's so much evidence that now shows that it doesn't do anything for kids, right? And you shouldn't be offering it to them because it's actually very sweet when you taste it. Because I tasted like, and I was just like, it tasted like it actually had sugar in it. So I think that was another thing that I feel I tried that I shouldn't have. And probiotic drops is something that I feel is much safer remedy for colic if that is something that you're struggling. Another one, which is a baby care practice that is again very commonly suggested, but we should be avoiding, which is offering cow's milk to your baby if you are unable to breastfeed them for whatever reason, right? Sanjita, what's your take on this as a nutritionist? Is cow's milk better than formula?
Yeah. So, unfortunately, for a lot of moms around the world, if they are not able to breastfeed, there's a lot of that guilt and they feel really bad. So, that whole, I can't give my baby formula. It's terrible for them. So there's that real stigma of giving your child formula. So a lot of times parents are like, you know what, I'm just going to give cow's milk. I want to keep it very simple again, that babies' digestive systems are maturing. Cow's milk, if we understand what it contains, it has a lot of protein. and babies are not ready to digest so much protein. There is a lack of iron. And when it comes to babies, especially from 6 to 12 months, they need 11 mg of iron a day. So they need that support from breast milk when the mom is having iron, or from formula, which is fortified with iron. And overall, it is just too heavy for them to digest. Very simply put, cow's milk in a nutritional profile does not meet the needs of what babies actually need from 0 to 1. And a lot of times babies get eczema, diarrhea, constipation issues if they take a lot of cow's milk before 1. So definitely avoid it. You can do a bit of dairy in the food products. That's okay. Butter, ghee, yogurt, paneer, a little bit here and there cow's milk for cooking, because when you cook it, it denatures the protein. It's okay to digest that.
Of course. So you're saying if you can breastfeed, breastfeed. If you cannot or don't have the bandwidth for it, then offer formula instead. That makes so much sense because I think people fear the fact that the cow's milk you're getting is fresh and the formula is coming from a container, so it's not that fresh anymore. But at the end of the day, you have to look at the ingredients. Cow's milk, it's technically meant for a cow's baby. And to make it suitable for a human baby, that's what these formula companies have done. And thank goodness that we have an option like this in the market now, which didn't exist like 100 years ago. On a very similar note, and I'm so glad that we have Sanchita here, who's a nutritionist, to kind of stop us from making mistakes in these baby care practices. Sanchita, tell me another one. Offering dal ka pani and rice ka pani before the age of like 6 months when you're kind of getting them ready to start solids. Do you recommend avoiding it or do you recommend doing this? What is your opinion on that?
So the answer is simply no. It's not a good idea. The reason that we were actually told to offer dal ka pani and rice cereal is because we were starting solids very early at 4 months. But whether it's 4 months, whether it's 6 months, you don't need to offer it, because to be honest, dal ka pani and rice cereal is not food. Okay. You can offer your child regular dal. Just giving the water, number one, has no nutrition. It doesn't teach them about food. It's very difficult to consume because it's a liquid, so it doesn't even stay on the spoon. So it's not teaching them about real food and how to use their spoon and hands. And end of the day, when you start solids, you want to make sure every bite counts and it is helping their gut. And dal ka pani and rice cereal, just don't do it. And when you start at 6 months and your baby's actually ready for solids, just start with regular fruits and veggies, and then you can move on to actual rice, actual dal, because simply put, our kids deserve it. They don't deserve dal ka pani and rice cereal.
Tiny tummies, if you just keep filling it up with a liquid, you're replacing milk and you're not even giving anything good in replacement of it. You're just giving them water, which has no nutrition. So thank you for clarifying that. Sadly, this was one of the mistakes that I made as well. I feel like this episode could be called 10 things that Rinie did with her baby that you shouldn't do with yours. It's just because I grew up in India for like half my life. I was there for 15 years. I've spent 15 years in Singapore, but my roots are still so strong in India, which is why a lot of the advice that I got and a lot of the things that I did with my baby in the initial days when I was clueless was based on these very traditional Indian practices. And breaking out of these practices and learning from experts such as yourself about them has been so like life changing for me, and that's why I feel like this was such an important thing to discuss for even the most well educated families who might be making these mistakes, right? Let's talk about certain baby care practices. So earlier, of course, we mentioned the kajal and the oil. One of the earliest things that, again, I was asked to do, and now I realize I shouldn't have, is to try to remove my baby's hair when she was a newborn. And I was told that if you don't remove this hair, she's going to be a hairy girl when she grows up. Oh my God, like I can't believe I actually fell for that. And what I was asked to do is take atta and you make a ball of the atta and then you add a lot of ghee to it. So it should be a very soft ball. And then you use that ball to like rub it on her skin so that the hair comes out with it. And I'm just thinking back, like, that sounds horrific to do to a little child.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, even Besan is another thing. They say do Besan and rub it. For me, so growing up, I had like hair all the way down to here. So like, thank God for laser hair removal. But I remember like I was also bullied for it and I used to feel very bad. So it's a very sensitive topic for me. So when I had my daughter, she slowly, like you could see it was slowly coming. And then, everyone around me is like, do the basin, do that. And I tried doing it a few times because I was scared. I was like, I don't want her to go through what I went through. And, slowly the hair just kept going. And then everyone kept saying, you didn't rub enough. You didn't put enough basin. And first of all, whenever I do the basin, her whole skin would become red because it's too sensitive for their skin. So that's why I stopped. And then I literally asked like 5 dermatologists. I was like, did I do something wrong? Was it a mistake? And they simply told me, look, it's genetic. You can't do anything about it. So now I'm like, you know what? I'm just like telling my daughter, own it. But the point is, this basin and all is too heavy for their skin. It's too rough and it's not okay.
What a lot of parents don't know that babies are actually born with like a layer of hair. It's called the lanugo. And that is something that it just kind of goes away with age. And if there is any other like body hair or facial hair, you're right, that is just genetic. And the basin thing, I was also asked to do the same thing, but that was more for whitening the skin of my baby. Because actually, see, I've got a wheatish complexion, but my brother is a lot fairer than me. And that is something that I have been bullied for my entire life, right? Especially when I was a kid. And I think the fear was that my baby would have a skin tone which was like mine. And apparently that was a bad thing. So then I was asked to do the whole basin bath as well to make her fairer. And that just made no sense to me. Like, I had finally reached a point in my life in which I was comfortable with my skin color. I would never do this to my child because it's so difficult to accept your own insecurities. And I think that's exactly what you went through. It's just about accepting it and just owning it after a point because that's what it was, like God's gift to you. So that's what we want to like teach our children. On the same note of whitening the baby, please tell me, Sanchita, were you asked to put powder on your baby's face?
Oh my God.
And body and everything.
I'm still told to put powder on my kids and they're almost 6. First of all, these baby powders, there was a big case with Johnson and Johnson. The talc is actually not safe for kids to actually have on their body. And so that was number 1, the products weren't safe. And number 2, now we know as parents that the best thing to do for diaper rash or any irritation is moisture. So using coconut oil is so much better to prevent the diaper rashes than actually using these baby powders, which actually have very harmful ingredients, a lot of chemicals as well.
The key thing is that when you put the powder too close to the openings in your body, which is your nose, ears, mouth, and genitalia, you are risking those particles entering the system, causing respiratory distress, and in the long run, they're actually carcinogens. I think that was the whole basis of that $1 million suit against J&J that was causing cancer. And I think that was such a horrific thing because I realized that like, oh my God, is this going to happen to me as well? Because I was a J&J powder kid. My mom had this, like, I still remember.
Same.
It was this pot of powder with this big powder puff. And every day after our bath, she used to put powder all over our bodies. And then when my baby was born, again, I was asking the same thing. But because of this whole controversy that had happened, and turns out, no matter what the powder is, don't put it in the top half of your baby's body and near the genitalia, because that is not going to help your baby in any way. Like you said, it doesn't cure the diaper rash. It doesn't prevent redness or anything like that. Rather, keep it clean, keep it moisturized. That's all you need to do. So let's again just cross this baby care practices out of all households.
Stick to coconut oil. It's so nice that we are actually questioning things, but it's also exhausting.
It's exhausting trying to defend our choices. Because when we say we don't want to put powder and yet we're being pressurized to, people are gifting it to us, they're telling us, oh, you should be doing this. If anybody's listening to it, you can like defend your stance and say, hello, it can potentially cause cancer, respiratory infections. Would you do this to my child? No. Then why are you pressurizing me to do it to my child? So I think this kind of ammunition is required for the parents of today. And on the same baby care note, another thing that should be absolutely banned is those really harsh massages that I see parents doing and I see Malishwalis doing. Like, if you're going to hire a professional to massage your baby, why are you letting them torture your baby by just pulling their legs and pressing so hard, all in the name of strengthening bones? Massages don't strengthen bones.
They don't. And I remember we spoke about this in another episode with, I think it was Dr. Rima, that, we've we feel that, okay, we have to strengthen their bones, but that doesn't make any logical sense. And the reason we actually do that is it's more of a bonding experience. It's also because their skin is very dry. So using that oil and massaging them helps bring in that moisture. So it actually has nothing to do with bones, but it has to do with these other things instead.
Exactly. And there's this really popular doctor, right? She's called Bachokli Doctor, and she's got this account. And one of the best things that I heard her say was if massaging could strengthen bones and muscles, we wouldn't have gym equipment in the gym. We would just have massage tables, and people would be going in to get massages to have stronger muscles and stronger
Yeah.
bones, right? So I think that's a really important thing to understand, that if firstly, I would always advise parents is don't outsource massages, because as you mentioned earlier, it's a bonding experience and you want your baby to bond with you, not with the Malishwali. You want them to have the safe, secure touch of your hands, your smell, you like locking eyes with you when you're massaging them, not with the Malishwali. Might as well take that opportunity to really bond with your child, do a light, gentle massage instead of just the pulling and everything, and understanding that that's what a massage is for.
I think once you know that it's not about strengthening the bones and it's a bonding thing, then you are also not so stressed about, oh, am I doing it the right way? You can be more relaxed.
Harsh massages, calling in massage walis to do that. Let's totally stay away from this practice. So that was like 10 things, right? Like 10 big things that we should avoid doing. These are very traditional baby care practices, but definitely should be banned. And let's just do a quick recap of this. Why don't we do it for everybody who's listening to us? The first one that you mentioned was not putting kajal in the eyes and all over the face of the baby.
Yeah. The second one was no oil in the ears and nose.
The third one would be not offering honey anytime before the age of 1.
The fourth one is giving a Ghutti to babies to help with colic.
The fifth one is giving cow's milk instead of formula in case you're not able to breastfeed.
The next one is no dal ka pani, no rice cereal as first foods for your kids.
The seventh one is not using atte ka loi or the ball of atta for hair removal of your newborn baby.
Next one is no besan for hair removal and skin lightening.
The next one would be not using baby powder to keep their skin dry.
And the last one would be no rigorous massages are needed for your baby.
Amazing. So thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you were able to make a mental note of all of these 10 things and all the reasonings behind why you shouldn't be doing them. So next time somebody asks you to do them, you're able to defend your stance and say a big no.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe and go ahead and watch the other episodes.